All right, we're going. So, first of all, thank you, Cassandra. Thank you for giving me the call. Mandy, thank you for again, to give me the opportunity to be here. So grateful. You all know, well, as we talk and we talk about purpose, anytime somebody gives you an opportunity to exercise your purpose, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, whether it's 5 people in a room, 50 people in a room, 500 people in a room, 5,000. Anytime somebody gives you an opportunity to exercise your purpose, it's a big deal. And I hope that you will always treat every opportunity like it's a multi-million-dollar opportunity. Like somebody's going to give you $1 million at the end of it, or if somebody's going to give you nothing at the end of it, just simply a mug and a T-shirt or something like that. Always prepare, always treat it like it's a multi-million-dollar opportunity, because the opportunity to exercise your passion and fulfill your passion is truly, it's a blessing. It's a big thing. So going back to Mandy and go back to Cassandra, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. So let's talk about leadership. My objective is to talk to you all about leadership and develop you as leaders. And every time that I've been a part of leadership development, whether it was through webinars, seminars, workshops, or lectures, I've always seen leadership go in 2 directions. So the first direction is you take some sort of questionnaire, right? And you answer a bunch of different questions, and you get some results that help you figure out who you are as a leader. Maybe it's your leadership profile. So maybe you lead through assertiveness, decision-making, aggressiveness, right? And maybe you lead through being what's the word called? I want to say a role model. You lead by example. You know, your thing is, I don't have any rah-rah speeches for anybody. I'm not too... I don't want to make any big decisions, but watch me work, watch how I do this work, and follow me. And so people may lead, you may be able to lead people by way of being excellent at your work, but you might be one of those type of people that you're more concerned with the system, right? If we execute this system properly, we'll be able to maximize our results, right? And then there's some people are more camaraderie oriented, right? They're just concerned about the group. I want to make sure that everybody's in a good place. I want to use my charisma and my personality, keep people laughing, keep people going, so that everybody has fun doing the work. And I'm pretty sure there's some other identities that are connected to leadership. But that's one of the ways in which we learn about ourselves as leaders. The other way that we learn about ourselves as leaders is we're given tools to help us figure out how to manage personalities, how to manage groups, how to manage individuals, how to manage situations, right? So I want to give us a third lane, and I want to use purpose as an avenue or as a mechanism to help us figure out who we are as leaders, okay? Now, before I get going, how many of you all believe in this idea of purpose? By show of hands. All right, cool, all right? So when we talk about purpose, there's 3 things that we're talking about. We're talking about your calling or your why. Everybody has a why, all right? We're talking about your highest talent, and then we're also talking about the thing that you like to do the most. So when we talk about purpose, we're talking about 3 things. Number 1, what's your calling? What's your why? Why are you here? We're talking about what is your highest talent? And we're also talking about what do you like to do the most? Now that's important because it gives us an identity. It gives us some awareness about who we are, and it hopefully will help us put our past in perspective. It helps us put our past and our present in perspective. Now, how does this relate to leadership? I'll give you an example. If you are pursuing a leadership opportunity, right? And you're guns are blazing, you're updating your resume, you're getting all of your resources and references, and you're just doing everything you can to get into this leadership spot. I'm going to ask you, how does it sync up, or how is it connected to your purpose, right? Because sometimes we pursue things that's not connected to our purpose. So hypothetically speaking, you are going after this leadership opportunity in this tech field, right? But your purpose has nothing to do with technology. So maybe that's one of those times where you need to ask yourself, am I pursuing the right opportunity, right? Should I be putting all my eggs in this basket? Should I be pursuing this tech leadership opportunity because it's not really connected to my calling, it's not connected to the thing that I'm really good at, and it's not connected to the thing that I like to do the most. But hypothetically speaking, there might be this opportunity in the field of technology, and your purpose, your calling, your highest talent, and the thing that you love to do are all in line with technology. So it works. So it makes perfect sense for you to attack this leadership opportunity because it's connected and it's in sync with your purpose. But then there's other situations in which maybe you get promoted to a leadership position. Maybe you get nominated for a leadership position. You know, among your peers, they say, hey, you need to be up here leading us. So maybe at first you're just a worker. You're just a worker bee. You're working really hard. You're encouraging. You're able to make good decisions. You're concerned with the camaraderie of everybody. You execute the system, and someone says, you know what? You're special. We think we need to put you at a higher place because we think you could do more good up here as opposed to down here, right? So now you put in this place where before you were just one of the workers, and now you're put in a leadership position, and so now you want to look at your purpose to figure out, well, how do I lead? How do I lead? I was just a worker. Now all of a sudden I'm over here in this capacity and I'm supposed to lead all these people. How do I do that? Because we think just because you're in a leadership position, it's supposed to come easy. Not the case. There are a lot of people who are in leadership positions who are not leaders. They're functional team members, right? They're managers, not leaders. Leaders are special, right? But if we find ourselves in that situation, we can look at our purpose and say, okay, what's my calling? What am I really good at? What do I like doing? And as you start to ask those questions, you might say, you know what? My purpose isn't really connected to this leadership opportunity that I've been given. So what I'll do is I'll delegate. I'll lead through delegating. Instead of me wanting to be at the forefront of everything, I'm going to give people opportunities. I'm going to lead from the shadows. I'm going to lead from behind, right? And you're saying, I'm going to elevate you on this platform. I'm going to put you on this platform. I want to put you on this platform. And you guys are going to lead. I'm just going to provide you with the support. I'm going to give you total autonomy. You can do you because I trust all of you. And that's one way of leading. But then there's other times where you say, all right, listen, I've been given this opportunity. How do I lead? And you look at your purpose and you say, wow, my calling, the thing that I'm good at, and the thing that I like to do the most are all in sync with this opportunity. So maybe now you want to be a little bit more hands-on. Maybe you want to put your thumbprint on some of the projects a little bit more because you realize that I'm actually built for this opportunity that I've been given. So now it's all in sync. So that's why we want to talk about purpose. So now, before we talk about purpose, I want to give you a breakdown of the presentation so you can kind of follow me, right? Now, everybody should have in front of them this dandy little booklet, right? It's basically just 2 pages, but it's really just 1 page, right? So we're going to talk about purpose. We're going to talk about how you discover your purpose. That part of my little presentation will be interactive. I want to talk. I want to have dialogue. I want it to be interactive. I want us to have a conversation. I don't want to be up here running my mouth and give you an opportunity to look at your phone, okay? I want you to be thinking about what's my calling? What's my highest talent? What do I like doing? How do I take all these moments that have happened in my life and make sense of them so I can figure out what my purpose is so that I can be a better leader in some capacity, whether I'm leading my household or whether I'm leading the company or whether I'm leading a nonprofit group in a project. Whatever the case may be, if I get an opportunity to lead, I want to make sure I understand what my purpose is so it can impact the way in which I lead. Does that make sense? Make sense? Yeah. All right, cool. All right. I teach college courses. And it would never gets routine is talking to young adults, asking them a question, and them absolutely saying nothing to you. It just never ever gets familiar. I'm always slightly ticked off when I'm like, hey, everybody got that? And everybody's like, just say yeah, man. Just say yeah, maybe help me out. Help a brother out. All right. So let's talk about how do you figure out what your purpose is, all right? Now, I can ask you a bunch of different questions to help you figure out what your purpose is, but I may not get any good answers, any concrete answers that are full of substance because who's to say that you're not distracted? Who's to say that you don't have a lot of stuff going on in your life that makes it hard for you to really come up with some answers that really make sense, right? So before I start asking you a bunch of questions about what your purpose is, we have to experience what I like to call clarity. right? You've all heard clarity, right? We all know what clarity means, right? So what I want to do is talk about clarity and break it down. How do you achieve clarity? How do you clear your life? How do you clear your life out of all the junk so that you can listen to the signs and hear the words and hear the melodies and hear the sounds that will bring you closer to the purpose-centered life? Well, clarity is a combination of quiet time and peace of mind. Quiet time and peace of mind. So let's start with probably the toughest part of living the purpose-centered life. The toughest part of living the purpose-centered life. I don't say purpose-driven life because somebody already took that. So I got to say purpose-centered life. So how do we live a purpose-centered life? What's the toughest thing?
Time.
No, I'm telling you. What did you say?
Time.
Time. No, I got something better than that. It's even more difficult. Appreciating silence. Appreciating silence is the toughest thing as it relates to living the purpose-centered life. Because all of us have this. We got a podcast going on. We got music going on. We got the headphones going on. We're interacting. We're Snapchatting somebody. We're FaceTiming somebody. I think every major social media platform has basically like an interactive component where you can either go live or chat with somebody. I had an hour-long conversation yesterday on Instagram. So everybody's interacting with somebody. And what happens is we become so fixated on interacting with the outside world that we dismiss or we ignore this conversation taking place on the inside. Every one of us has this inner person, an inner man or inner woman, your subconscious, your ego. There's a lot of stuff going on. Every day you wake up and you look at the phone, you look at society, you're impacted in some way. But a lot of times we don't listen or we don't acknowledge what's going on around. We acknowledge what's going on around us, but we don't acknowledge how it's impacting us. So what ends up happening is this conversation going on that you're not privy to because you're so fixated on this or talking to this person. And so sometimes the toughest thing to do is to drive to your destination. Might be a 5-minute drive, 10-minute drive, 15-minute drive. The toughest thing is to drive in silence. It's tough. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in silence because you wanted to? And what happens is when we sit in that silence, we have to deal with ourselves. We have to deal with our insecurities. We have to deal with confusion. We have to deal with things that we've done that we maybe aren't proud of. We can also deal with the things that we are proud of. But sometimes dealing with us, ourselves, in isolation is tough. So what do? We find a way to distract ourselves from what's really going on because we don't really want to have that conversation with ourselves. So as you say, time is difficult. I'd agree, it's difficult. But I think the toughest thing is to deal in absolute silence. Don't you ever hear about questions about people being in solitary and going crazy? Yeah. Because we have the potential to drive ourselves crazy. So what we have to do is we got to find a way to work through the craziness, right? Because we're all a mess. And we're all working to be less of a mess, right? At least I am. Maybe you guys are pitch perfect. I have issues, all right? So I've now acknowledged quiet time. The next thing I have to do is before I get to peace of mind, is I have to acknowledge the good, the bad, the ugly, and the dark that exists within me. I got some good in me. I promise you, I got a bunch of good in me. I got some bad in me too, right? And sometimes my bad it's not always intentional. Sometimes it happens unconsciously. I got these blind spots. I got all these things that have influenced me, and sometimes I do bad things, sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally. And then there's times when I can act ugly. Sometimes I premeditate and I go to a bad place, I go to an ugly place, and I wanna create leverage for myself. So we all have these moments in which we're ugly, where we don't really want to see, we don't want the mirror to be put up to our face, right? We don't want to see what we've become from time to time, all depending on what we've been going through, right? And then there's this dark place that we can go to from time to time, right? So we got the good, the bad, the ugly, and the dark, right? And so as we start thinking about those elements that exist within all of us, and we start to understand that, yeah, you weren't just born with all of that. Yeah, there's some things that you were born with from genetics, and sometimes spirits are passed along and something like that. But then there's this outside world that influences you, and these outside forces that impact you, and they inspire you in certain ways. And so you start to realize that, yeah, I have to take accountability for my actions, but based upon what I've seen since day one, that's going to have an impact on how I show up. And so as you start thinking about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the dark within yourself, and you start realizing that it's not just all you. Sometimes you got to work through your circumstances and your situations. Hopefully you develop some empathy, and you start to think, man, if I'm going through that, you must be going through it too. And you must be going through it too. And you're going through it too. And all you guys are going through it. So the same good that I have in me, the same bad, the same ugly, the same dark, you got it in you too. And you probably working just as hard as I am to be as good as possible every single day, but sometimes we break down. Why? Because we're broken. You can't tell me you're not broken when you see all this craziness going around here and it doesn't impact you in some way. It has to. I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news because I don't want that stuff to seep into my subconscious and it start to impact me in some way. Now my energy becomes toxic. But because I know I'm dealing with it, and because I know there's somebody who can't turn the news off, that might be impacting how they say hello to you the next day. That person, that clerk at the convenience store, they might have an attitude, but it ain't all them. They got a lot going on. And so now we start developing empathy. And with that empathy, we start to develop the ability to forgive. And that's where we start to develop peace of mind. And in order to develop that peace of mind, we got to use what I call the A game. All right? The A game. The A game is 4 A's. You got to acknowledge your situation, accept your situation, appreciate your situation, so you can accelerate with what you need, leaving back the stuff that you don't. So now, let's go back. My mind is, I'm engaging in the silence. The silence is making me aware of the good, the bad, the ugly that exists with me. Because I understand what's in me, I understand what's in you too. Now I have a little bit more empathy. Now I'm able to exercise forgiveness. So I'm now able to ask for forgiveness. I'm able to hopefully forgive. And if there's no one else, is the people that I want to ask for forgiveness for, if they're not there, I'm also able to sometimes forgive myself. Sometimes we beat ourselves down because of something that we did and we can't find a way to make it right. So sometimes it's okay to either, if you believe in a God, to either ask for forgiveness, or you could just say, man, start forgiving yourself. It's going to be okay. You made a mistake. Let's move on. But how do we use this A game to exercise forgiveness? First thing we got to do is you have to acknowledge the situation. You have to acknowledge what's going on in your life, what's going right, what's going wrong, right? You just have to acknowledge and sit there and say, okay, I'm going to confront the brutal facts. Right? Seems simple. Again, it gets a little bit tough. This is one of the toughest things to do. Acceptance. Not accepting the situation, but accepting the reality that you are totally responsible for your joy. Notice I didn't say happiness. People make you happy. A great meal makes you happy. A nice car makes you happy. You should already have joy in your heart and allow for other things to make you happy. I'm the cake. Somebody give me something, that's icing. But I'm the cake. I'm already sweet and delicious. All right? But if you put the icing on me, that makes it a little bit more better. But I already have joy in my heart. But there's a lot of people that are experiencing or pursuing intentional suffering. Intentional suffering. That means once they get hit, they don't get hit, brush it off, and keep it moving. What they do is they get hit, and as that pain starts to go to someone else, they grab it and they keep it because they want to keep feeling that hurt. They want to keep feeling that hurt because it's easier to keep that hurt because as long as they got that hurt, they can keep blaming people for it. I'm blaming you for this hurt. See what you did to me? You're like, but man, I said I'm sorry and I apologize. And that was years ago, man. We've had all this time to talk. We've had all this time to conversate. We've had all this time to kind of work things out. But you want to hold on to it because if I can blame you for my suffering, I don't have to acknowledge the reality that I can do something about my joy. Does that make sense? So we have to accept the reality that we are accountable for our joy. Somebody might hurt us, but we have to do something about it. We just can't get hit and then lay on the ground for the next 50 years of our lives talking about how I got hit back in 2018. So now what we got to do is we got to appreciate the moment. Now, oftentimes, the jewels that really, really can accelerate your life, a lot of times we get these jewels in our lives that are covered with a bunch of junk. And what we got to do is we got to take our hammer, I don't know, with the nail or whatever, we got to take that thing and just keep on working on it until we break away all that junk so that we can get close to that diamond, that jewel that's going to help unlock our potential. And once we have what we need, we can now accelerate leaving back the stuff that we don't. Give you another analogy. You're pulling a wagon, right? You're pulling a wagon. Every step you take, another experience is put in that wagon, right? And that wagon is an experience, it's a bunch of junk, but in the inside, there's a gem. As I take steps from age 40 to 41 to 42, or taking steps from age 1 to 2 to 3, I've been pulling this wagon a long time, right? That wagon gets hard to pull the more I take, the more steps I take. So what I got to do, if I want to keep moving through life efficiently and effortlessly, I got to go back into that wagon every now and then, crack open that junk, that gem. I got to get to that gem, crack open that junk. So now I got gems in my wagon. I don't got big hunks of rock and rubble. I got gems in my wagon. So think about me pulling a wagon full of gems. I got what I need. They're lighter. They elevate me, right? They make me. They unlock my potential. I'm pulling that versus pulling a bunch of junk. Does that make sense? Does that analogy make sense? So therefore, it's critical that we acknowledge our situation. We accept full responsibility for our joy. We appreciate the moments that everybody will look at and say, man, that was devastating. Well, I got to find a way to pull something out of this moment. Maybe this moment taught me how strong I was. Maybe this moment taught me how smart I was. Maybe this moment taught me how resilient I am, right? And once I got what I need from that moment, I can now accelerate with what I need, leaving back what I don't. Once I have quiet time and peace of mind, because now I understand how all this stuff is working for me. I'm able to take all my heartaches and pain, my struggles, trials and tribulations. I'm able to take all that stuff, and I'm able to figure. And I figured out this is why I went through that. This is what that moment was trying to tell me all along. I'm good. I got what I need. I can move on. Now I can move on to the next level of my life where I can figure out what's my purpose. Why? Because my spirit, my mind, and my heart is clear. I can take all these things that have happened to me, and I can now understand them and how they impact my purpose. Does that make sense? All right, here we go. So now I'm done talking. Well, I'm not done talking. I'm going to talk more, but now you all are going to talk. All right, so open up your packet.